Faleminderit shumë, ambasador. Faleminderit shumë dhe që theksuat parimin e veprimit bashkëkohor në tre fushat dhe se cila për tyre është thelbësore, që është arsimi, sepse pa arsim nuk do të kuptojmë dot të tjerët. Dhe dy fushat e tjera, të cilat janë më të vështira për të plotësuar. Faleminderit edhe një herë. Dhe tani jap fjalën zotit Adil Akhmetov, përfaqësuesi personal i kryetarit të Radhës së OSBE-s, që do të flasë për luftën kundër intolerancës dhe diskriminimit ndaj muslimanëve. Është antar i parlamentit dhe i parlamentit të Kazakistanit. Keni fjalën.
Mr. Chairman,
Zoti kryetar,
ladies and gentlemen,
zonjë dhe zotërinj,
from the outset,
që në
let me
fillim
express my
më lejoni
gratitude
të shpreh
to
mirënjohjen
the
time
President of the OSCE,
për
Mr.
presidentin
Ricardo
e
Milleri,
OSBE, zotit
for
Miliori,
his personal
për
letter inviting to attend
letrën që na dërgoi,
this session
më dërgoi mua personalisht për të folur në këtë seancë për nxitjen dhe mbrojtjen e shoqërive multietnike dhe multikulturore në zonën e OSBE-s. Tek së pari,
your
dua
attention
të tërheq vëmendjen tuaj
to an unavoidable common concern
për një shqetësim të përbashkët të paevitueshëm që ka të bëjë me gjendjen
and
e
the international peace
paqes ndërkulturore, ndërfektare dhe ndërkombëtare të planetit. Nuk ka dyshim se
this
sot
peace is
kjo paqe
extremely
është
fragile.
tejet e brisht.
The latest worldwide
Zemërimi i
Muslim
kohëve të
anger
fundit në
and-
shkallë
and
botërore i
violent
muslimanëve
protests inspired
dhe
by
protestat e dhunshme të frymëzuara nga një
brutal
film
mocking
brutal
Prophet
që është
Muhammad
dhënë në
is a
YouTube,
strong proof.
i cili tallë
of what
profetin
I have
Muhammed,
just said.
është prova e fortë e kësaj që sapo thash.
Moreover,
Për më
this is not a
tepër,
single case
nuk
of
është rasti i
shocking
vetëm
and
i
sacred
talljes
killings of
së ndjejave të
Muslims on the
shenjta
planet.
të muslimanëve në
The
planet.
mankind has not yet forgotten
Njerëzimi nuk e ka harruar
those malicious
akoma,
and
nuk i ka harruar akoma
ridicules
talljet e
thrown at
ligat
Islam
të
in the past.
pafashme që janë bërë Islamin e
I mean
bashkuar.
the cartoon films
Kam parasysh
stimulating
filmat
Prophet Muhammad
me kartona që kanë poshtëruar profetin Muhammed dhe rastet e ndryshme të vandalizmit të kryer nga ekstremistët ndaj Kuranit në zonën e OSBE-s. Ky lloj krimi, urrejtje dhe kjo sjellje provokuese që qëllimisht thyen Islamin nuk duhet të përligjet me lirinë e shprehjes. Përkundërzi, mendimet të tilla kaq të dëmshme, kaq njerëzore, stereotipike duhet të dënohen me ashpërsi nga shtetet anëtare të OSBE-s. Nga ana tjetër, duhet të theksoj se asgjë, duke përfshirë dhe përdorimin e medias për të kthyer muslimanët dhe Islamit, nuk mund të justifikojë vrasjen e njerëzve të pafajshëm.
Importance of promotion human rights and
Rëndësia
tolerance.
që ka nxitja e
These
të drejtave të
recent
njeriut dhe
deplorable
tolerancë.
incidents
Këto
are
incidente
another
të
proof of
fundit
the fact
të
that the
dënueshme
stability
janë
of
provë
multi-ethnic and multicultural societies depend on two principles. First, protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and second, promotion of tolerance and mutual understanding. Hence, today we need more action to promote not only multiculturalism but also interculturalism, so that people do not only accept differences but also appreciate the value of diversity. Combating intolerance and discrimination, including against Muslims, can contribute a lot to the efforts of states and civil society to promote and to protect multi-ethnic and multicultural societies in the OSCE region. The challenges that Muslims facing. Muslims in many participating states constitute a significant part of population, either as long-established historical communities or relatively recently settled immigrant groups. They embrace a large diversity of cultural traditions, ethnic backgrounds, languages, and religious tendencies. As citizens of or residents, they make significant contributions to the social, economic, and cultural well-being of the countries where they live in, and they share many features common to the rest of society. In spite of this, recent international tensions, the global economic crisis, anxieties about national identity, and the difficulties in coping with the increasing diversity in many societies have led to a growth in resentment against Muslims and Islam that has sometimes been fueled by intolerant language in media and political discourse. As a result, many Muslims experience a range of discrimination, including verbal harassment, hate speech, violent attacks on religious profiling. Many are also confronted with a lack of equal opportunities in employment, housing, healthcare, and education, and face restrictions on the public expression of their religion. Recommendations. The OSCE recognized the danger of growing public intolerance against Muslims as early as 2002 in a ministerial council decision which firmly condemned such acts of discrimination and hatred. OSCE participating states have committed themselves to combating intolerance against Muslims and strongly rejected the association of any religion or culture with terrorism. They have also encouraged participating states to raise awareness of existence of intolerance against Muslims in society. With the view of ensuring the implementation of these commitments, participating states need to strengthen their efforts to combat intolerance and discrimination against Muslims. This should especially include taking effective measures to confront hate crimes and discrimination motivated by anti-Muslim prejudices. As ODIHR's draft hate crime report for 2011 indicates, hate crimes against Muslims take place in many participating states, but they are significantly underreported and underrecorded. Today, only one state provides data on anti-Muslim hate crimes for ODIHR's upcoming report. Therefore, I would like to encourage participating states to establish monitoring and data collection mechanisms to support civil society programs to monitor, report, and provide assistance to victims, and to increase cooperation and trust between law enforcement officers and Muslim communities. During these activities, special attention should be paid to the vulnerability of Muslim women wearing headscarves and Islamic places of worship. Additionally, participating states should do more to prevent discrimination based on religion, as freedom of religion or belief cannot be protected otherwise. In my country visits, I have repeatedly underlined that restrictions on the manifestations of religion, which directly or indirectly discriminate Muslims, constitute a violation of freedom of religion or belief and promotion of interfaith dialogue. Programs cannot substitute the need for combating discrimination against all religious communities. With the view of promoting these guidelines, so I am referring to ODIHR's experience. This year, ODIHR is organizing roundtable meetings for the representatives of ministries of education, pedagogical institutions, and international networks of educational experts. The first roundtable, which took place in September in Vienna, proved that there is a lot of interest in the new educational tool. Participants suggested that the guidelines should be translated into the official languages of participating states and widely circulated by the ministries of education. They also suggested that ODIHR should develop teaching materials on intolerance against Muslims and train teachers on how to counter this phenomenon in schools. I am pleased to announce that the second roundtable meeting will take place at UNESCO headquarters in Paris in November, where there will be an opportunity to discuss how to follow up these recommendations. As we are pressed on time, in conclusion, I would like to refer to late St. Paul II, who invited the mankind not to be surprised by the differences that exist between cultures, religions, and civilizations. On the contrary, late St. Paul II advised to be surprised by the common values that unite different cultures, religions, and civilizations. St. Paul II was absolutely right. From this point of view, I invite the OSCE member states and the parliamentarians to propagate only common values that unite us. And in the holy books, it's always underlined not to spread bad news. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adil. Thank you for presenting your important and responsible work. And now we come as last but not least to Rabbi Andrew Baker, personal representative of the OSCE chairperson in office on combating anti-Semitism. Mr. Baker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank the Parliamentary Assembly for the invitation to participate in today's program, but more importantly, for the critical role that you have played in getting our respective states and the OSCE itself to address the problems of racism, of intolerance, and of anti-Semitism. In fact, it was this Parliamentary Assembly meeting 10 years ago in Berlin that set things in motion with the adoption of a seminal resolution on anti-Semitic violence in the OSCE region. Because of your initiative, the OSCE organized a first conference on anti-Semitism the following year in Vienna, which itself was followed in 2004 by a high-level conference and adoption of the Berlin Declaration, something that set out commitments by governments in the area of education, of legislation, and tasked ODIHR with the new programmatic responsibility of promoting tolerance and non-discrimination. You adopted that resolution a decade ago because we were witnessing a resurgence of anti-Semitic incidents in much of Europe. In the years since, there has at least been a clear recognition of the problem. That was simply not the case at first. There has been real progress in engaging police and prosecutors, in monitoring and data collection, and in developing educational programs that might provide some long-term correction. But sadly, despite this progress, there are still very real challenges that threaten the security and well-being of Jewish communities throughout the OSCE region. So let me take this opportunity to enumerate them. Last year, experts participating in the OSCE high-level conference on confronting anti-Semitism in public discourse in Prague described a serious and growing problem, manifest in print and traditional media and increasingly on the internet. Long-standing anti-Semitic imagery of blood libels or conspiracy theories are now combined with the demonization of Israel and frequently the conflation of Jews and Judaism with the Israeli state, which serve to present a distorted and even pernicious picture of Jewish life today, while fomenting prejudice and group hatred. Where graffiti and printed broadsides were once the delivery vehicle for anti-Semitic invective, the electronic media are now today's methods of choice. While there may be no definitive quantitative measure, no one doubts its corrosive and negative impact, especially since so few people have their own direct experiences of Jewish friends or co-workers. By way of example, in Spain, opinion surveys continue to demonstrate that a significant percentage of the population hold negative views about Jews. But Jews in Spain constitute less than 0.1% of the population. The scholars say this is a prejudice not based on firsthand knowledge, but rather a legacy of nationalist identity politics and the anti-Israel views of the media. So it is to the credit of the current Spanish government that it is working closely with its small Jewish community to find ways to change these public perceptions. Norway offers another case. Earlier this year, an official survey conducted by that country's respected Holocaust Research Center found that 38% of the population considered Israeli treatment of Palestinians to be analogous to the actions of the Nazis, itself an anti-Semitic view according to the EUMC working definition of anti-Semitism. This was an alarming result, not only for that country's small Jewish community, but also for the government leaders themselves, whose frequent criticism of Israel may have inadvertently contributed to it. So even as we are rightly concerned with preserving the bedrock principle of media freedom, we must employ effective constitutional measures to combat the spread of anti-Semitism and other forms of hate speech. And there is surely much more that can be done to take advantage of these new media as vehicles to promote tolerance, as vehicles to combat prejudice. While anti-Semitism in public discourse is a problem in its own right, it can directly impact the security and well-being of Jewish communities. Such is the case today, where the physical security of these communities in many OSCE participating states is imperiled. We have this year witnessed lethal attacks on Jews in several countries, as well as numerous incidents of verbal harassment and physical damage to Jewish community buildings. One such attack took place only last week in Malmö, Sweden, where local authorities have long been reluctant to take responsibility. The most persistent long-term threat has come from right-wing and neo-Nazi groups and individuals. But during this past decade, attention has turned to the problems posed largely from elements in local Arab and Muslim communities. And today's counterterrorism experts also recognize that many of these same Jewish communities are potential soft targets for international terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, and subject to the volatile triggers of the Middle East conflict and now of Iranian nuclear ambitions. Jewish communities are already soldiering security needs that impose significant financial burdens. In some cases, these costs can extend to as much as 25% of a community's annual budget. They require physical enhancements of schools, synagogues, and other community buildings, the presence of police and security volunteers for times of worship, education, and other communal gatherings, and the assistance of and close coordination with law enforcement officials. Governments of the OSCE participating states have thus far responded differently to these concerns. Some are providing the necessary funds and assistance to help secure and protect vulnerable communities. In some places, there is a close working relationship with authorities at high levels, which adequately reflects the heightened needs. But in too many places, government support is limited or lacking. This may be due to financial constraints or legal restrictions. Yet it may also be the result of a self-imposed political correctness that ignores special needs, or a bureaucratic indifference, or the inability to see or adequately assess the threats. As we meet, Europe continues to confront dire economic problems that threaten the long-term viability of the common currency and even challenge the Union itself. So far, in even the most vulnerable states, mainstream government leaders and parties have been united in their resolve to maintain a steady, centrist course. But this stress and the real and perceived economic hardships imposed on large numbers of citizens have also bolstered support for extremist parties that regularly play with racist, xenophobic, and anti-Semitic themes. And so the Jobbik Party in Hungary and the Golden Dawn Party in Greece now join those more established National Front Party in France, the Freedom Party in Austria, in garnering support in difficult times. Each may offer up a different primary target of group hatred depending on local conditions and prejudices, but all find it useful to weave an anti-Semitic thread in their respective tapestries. And it is perhaps more than coincidence that each one flirts now with Holocaust revisionism. Local political initiatives in a number of countries have sought to limit or restrict the freedom to perform ritual circumcision, or sought to impose bans that would prohibit the kosher slaughter of animals. Ostensibly, advocates are motivated by special concerns for the protection of children or the rights of animals, but they also may mask anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim sentiments. And in much of the public reaction and internet postings, there is no mask. The anti-Semitism is quite explicit. By way of example, last year in the Netherlands, a small animal rights party proposed legislation that would effectively ban ritual slaughter as performed by Jews and Muslims. It drew significant support from anti-Muslim prejudice and came close to complete passage. Switzerland and Norway are among those countries which have long-standing bans on kosher slaughter, the direct legacy of an anti-Semitic past. Their small Jewish communities have accommodated themselves to these restrictions, but growing Muslim populations now pose new challenges. Earlier this year, a German court in Cologne decreed that ritual circumcision as performed by Jews and Muslims should be outlawed. National leaders in Berlin quickly declared that such a ban would be unacceptable, and they have drafted legislation intended to guarantee this millennia-old religious practice. However, a growing public debate featuring strong voices opposed to circumcision suggests that passage of legislation will not be swift and cannot be guaranteed. In each instance, one might assume that basic guarantees of religious freedom enshrined in national constitutions and European basic law would easily overturn these imposed or potential restrictions. Yet such is not necessarily the case when we speak of increasingly secular societies where respect for religion in general has steadily declined, and frankly, where understanding of Judaism and Islam is often lacking. In closing, it is worth remembering that the phenomenon of anti-Semitism contains elements that set it apart from other forms of racism and intolerance. It can easily cross national borders. It can be present even in places where there are few or no Jews. It may subside, but it has never been vanquished. However, the commitment and the methods to combat it, legislation, education, effective law enforcement, and public awareness, these go hand in hand with the protection of all minorities in our multi-ethnic and multicultural societies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Baker. I think that in the end you made the right point. And I thank all the panelists for their enriching presentations, which I'm sure can provide an excellent basis for our debate and showed all the complexity of these issues. Now, the list of speakers is closed. I ask members to be brief and to stick to the subject in their interventions. We have 19 colleagues that want to speak, so I ask them kindly to remain inside 2 minutes so we can have some time in order to allow our keynote speakers to make final comments or to answer eventually to questions. And I start with Mrs. Vineta Porina from Latvia. Madam, the floor is
Thank
yours.
you very much. Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues, Latvia's goal is to develop as a secure, stable, and democratic European country with an integrated society that achieves integration by virtue of the state language and the nation-state's culture. At the same time, it is in Latvia's interests to preserve the uniqueness of ethnic minorities, for this will preserve the cultural diversity of the Latvian population. Throughout the centuries, it has been enriched by other cultures. However, it is only the connection with the Latvian culture that defines the uniqueness of Latvia and makes it different from any other country in the world. Latvia's goal is also to become reintegrated into Western Europe, and we consider integration issues from a typically Western European point of view, in which each country's titular nation, its language and culture are the basis for integrating various ethnic groups while respecting the languages and cultures of the ethnic groups insofar as they do not conflict with the basic democratic principles of the country. For instance, each country should help minorities to avoid self-discrimination by failing to learn the official language fluently and thus losing opportunities to obtain good jobs or receive higher education. Many minority representatives living in Latvia regard the Russian language as their native language, although they are Ukrainian, Belarusian, Polish, or another ethnic belonging. It means that these people have become assimilated into the Russian-speaking community. Also, after the regaining of Latvia's independence, the titular nation in Latvians is a minority in Latvia's largest cities. The language of one ethnic minority, the Russian language, is dominant in many places. However, internationally, this situation is not always understood because from the perspective of Western Europe, it is extraordinary and unique for the titular nation of Western European countries. There are several important findings that emerged from a research project for the European Commission entitled Intercultural Dialogue for the Multicultural Society in Europe. 6 European countries, namely Germany, France, Italy, Sweden, the United Kingdom, and Latvia, participated in the project. On comparison of the findings for each country, it was evident that the results for Latvia differed radically from those in the other countries. In all countries apart from Latvia, cultural communication caused discomfort for the minorities or immigrants, whilst in Latvia, it was the titular nation that experienced discomfort. As I have to conclude, what we see as a possibility that the coming generation with the opportunity to take advantage of education possibilities in other European Union countries is likely to produce a plurilingual situation where individuals are not solely geared to Russian as a second language, and it also will support the faster reintegration into Western Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Porina, and now we come to Mr. Michel Billou from France, please.
Monsieur le Président, mes chers collègues, écoutez, je suis vraiment désolé, mais je suis dans l'incapacité d'intervenir en 2 minutes. J'y renonce donc. Je prendrai juste 15 secondes pour dire que nous sommes réunis ici en assemblée parlementaire, que notre débat entre parlementaires est quelque chose d'extrêmement intéressant. Ce matin, nous avons passé pratiquement 2h30 à écouter 5 intervenants, certes intéressants, et il nous reste 45 minutes pour que 19 parlementaires interviennent. Je pense que ce ne sont pas des bonnes conditions pour travailler, et j'espère que l'on pourra tenir compte de mon observation pour les 2 prochaines sessions. Je vous remercie.
Io la ringrazio, signor Billou, mi dispiace veramente, non dipende da me. D'altra parte, mi dispiace molto che non abbiamo la possibilità di sentire il suo intervento, almeno le idee di fondo, anche in 2 minuti, 2 minuti e mezzo possono essere espresse. Vedremo in futuro se si possono organizzare diversamente le cose, ma ho paura che i tempi a nostra disposizione in genere, no? A meno che non si faccia un dibattito generale, in queste occasioni sono quelli che sono. Comunque non voglio rubarvi altro tempo. Passiamo quindi al signor Andreas Kafkalias di Cipro, che ha facoltà.
Yes. I wish to express our appreciation to the Speaker of the Parliament of Albania, Mrs. Josefina Topali, and our Albanian colleagues for their kind invitations and warm welcome. Promoting stable multi-ethnic societies has become an increasingly complex task in the post-Cold War security environment. Multi-ethnic societies are to be met in every country across and beyond the OSCE region. The Western Balkan region bears evidence to this complexity. It is therefore very important to keep the region's European perspective apace. This is a priority of the Cyprus presidency of the Council of the EU, as recently stressed by the Cypriot foreign minister during her visits to Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and our host country Albania. Respect of the rule of law and fundamental human rights and freedoms must prevail in democratic multi-ethnic and multicultural societies to be benefit of social cohesion and stability. Promoting respect for diversified against discrimination of all kinds constitutes a key component of good governance. Cyprus, for its part, being a destination country for a large number of immigrants, has been pursuing a comprehensive integration policy for third country nationals legally residing in the country. To this end, a special experts committee on integration of immigrants was set up in 2007. The committee has been entrusted with the adoption of measures aiming at the integration and participation of immigrants in social and public life, at the recognition of social, economic, political, and cultural rights and the needs of immigrants, as well as at combating racism and discrimination. Integration must be a democratic process which entails rights and commitments on the side of states and ethnic groups. This must also be an inclusive process with the participation of all stakeholders, local authorities, the civil society, NGOs, and the media. Integration must also be a process of raising awareness and capacity building through networking and sharing information, experiences, and good practices at the local, regional, and international levels. The OSCE has been instrumental in dealing with potential or evolving multi-ethnic challenges. It is essential that the OSCE pursues efforts towards a common denominator that will further enhance its role at the stage of conflict prevention. Parliamentary diplomacy can do much in this respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I now call on Mr. Gegamian from Armenia.
Сегодняшнее обсуждение имеет исключительно важное значение для Армении и для армян, потому что армянская диаспора нашла свой приют, чудом уцелев от геноцида армян в Османской империи в 1915-1923 годах. Ее гостеприимно приняли как христианские государства, так и мусульманские государства. И, пользуясь случаем, я выражаю благодарность правительствам и народам России, США, Украины, Иордании, Сирии, Ливана, Ирана, Франции, Аргентины и многим-многим другим государствам, которые приютили армян и позволили им полностью раскрыться и не потерять своей национальной самобытности. Меня несколько встревожили определенные факты. В частности, многоуважаемый профессор говорил о действительно веротерпимом отношении султана Мехмета II и Баязита к представителям иных религиозных верований. Но почему-то он не упомянул имя султана Гамида II, прозванного и закрепившего в истории свое имя как Кровавый. Я не случайно вспомнил его, потому что здесь свое раздаются буклеты насчет Турции, видимо, готовится к предстоящей парламентской ассамблее в Стамбуле, и этот буклет есть не что иное, как грубое искажение истории исторических фактов, и мы воспринимаем это как своего рода давление на армянскую делегацию с целью не допустить ее участия в парламентской ассамблее ОБСЕ в Стамбуле. Теперь по существу вопроса. К сожалению, веротерпимость и отношение к национальным меньшинствам абсолютно не перекликаются с сегодняшней политикой азербайджанских властей. Достаточно вспомнить, что еще в 1966 году, когда вопрос Нагорного Карабаха уже на уровне советского руководства решался, произошла чудовищная провокация, в частности в селе Куропаткино, что на территории Нагорного Карабаха директор школы заколол глаза армянского 8-летнего мальчика и забил голову гвоздями. И это сорвало переговорный процесс, и это отдалило решение карабахской проблемы на целые десятилетия. То же самое случилось в феврале 1988 года, когда разъяренная толпа в Сумгаите заживо жгла на кострах граждан армянской национальности. То же самое повторилось в 90-м году в январе в городе Баку. После этого единственное средство физического спасения и выживания было объявление независимости Нагорным Карабахом, которое состоялось в полном соответствии с действующей Конституцией СССР. Дальше больше развязали войну, агрессию против Армении и Азербайджана в 1992-1994 годах. Более того, в дальнейшем ходе войны опять-таки совершались чудовищные злодеяния, в частности, мирный коридор, который армянскими ополченцами с участием российского контингента, небольшого воинского контингента, дали мирный коридор для жителей Ходжалы, потом жители, они абсолютно безоружные были убиты азербайджанской стороной. И чудовищная политика продолжилась в 2004 году, когда, значит, азербайджанский офицер убил Сафарова. Вот когда перебивают все то, что говорится, ни одна проблема в регионе ОБСЕ не будет решена до тех пор, пока будут замалчиваться люди, которые говорят об исторической правде. Если мы формально собрались здесь, изначально надо было это говорить. Спасибо большое за внимание.
Thank you. And I'll give the floor to Mr. Liepins from Latvia.
Thank you very much. For Latvia, this forum is an important opportunity to share our success and acknowledge the common challenges we face in protecting multi-ethnic and multicultural societies. Already since its foundation in 1918, the Republic of Latvia has been a multi-ethnic and multicultural country. The biggest change in Latvia's demographic structure happened during the 50 years of Soviet occupation due to targeted migration. Approximately 1.5 million people from the Soviet Union came to live in Latvia voluntarily or by coercion. As a result, in 1989, the number of Latvians had decreased to 52% in comparison to pre-war time when Latvians were 77% of the total population. Upon regaining independence in 1991, Latvia chose the path of building a cohesive and integrated society. The basic principles are simple: protection of all individuals' fundamental rights, strengthening Latvian as the only state language, respecting democratic values and Latvian culture, while ensuring support for minority languages, education, and culture. The state support for education in minority languages in Latvia is extensive. State-financed secondary education in Latvia is available in 7 minority languages: Russian, Polish, Hebrew, Ukrainian, Estonian, Lithuanian, and Belarusian. Intercultural aspects, democracy, and civic education are included in the compulsory content of the school programs. Consultative bodies established at national and local level are significant tools for supporting participation of minorities in decision-making processes in Latvia. I'm sure that all of us can further improve our integration policies and promote greater tolerance and respect for others. Latvia is proud of its record in this respect. We are more than ready to share our experience and good practice. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now come on Mrs. Muradova from Azerbaijan. Madam.
Спасибо, уважаемый председатель. Не буду отвечать по каждому пункту нашего коллеги из Армении, но хочу сделать несколько комментариев об одном факте. Азербайджанский офицер Рамиль Сафаров принимал участие в натовских курсах в Будапеште вместе с армянским офицером. С самого начала у них с Маркаряном сложились конфликтные отношения. Маркарян неоднократно оскорблял азербайджанский народ и флаг. Рамиль Сафаров фактически был спровоцирован на совершение преступления. Он был приговорен к пожизненному заключению. Азербайджанская сторона не отрицает факта преступления, но считает приговор слишком суровым. Почему? Не было учтено то важное обстоятельство, что Рамиль Сафаров происходит из семьи беженцев, и многие члены его семьи были убиты во время оккупации Джибраильского района армянскими войсками. Не был учтен также факт провокационных действий армянского офицера. После многократных обращений азербайджанской стороны Рамиль Сафаров был экстрадирован в Азербайджан в соответствии с положением Конвенции о передаче лиц 1983 года. В соответствии с пунктом 12 той же Конвенции он был помилован президентом Азербайджана. В резолюции Европарламента от 13 сентября также отмечается, что решение президента Азербайджана не противоречит букве Конвенции. Поэтому считаем, что наши армянские коллеги не имеют юридических оснований поднимать этот вопрос. Более того, они не имеют и морального права на это. Повторяю, не имеют морального права. Хочу напомнить в связи с этим следующее. 1984 год. В США был выпущен на свободу и передан Армении армянский террорист Гурген Яникян, осужденный в США на пожизненное заключение за организацию убийств 6 турецких дипломатов и членов их семей. 1989 год. Был передан Франции в Армении. Лидер армянский террорист. Он сделал очень резкое заявление, я хочу отвечать.
These episodes are dramatic, we know, we are aware of that, but it's not really the subject
Потому
of
что
our,
этот факт
our
используется в
discussion.
международных
So I thank you
организациях
very much.
антипропагандистские целью
I don't
против
have any
Азербайджана.
Technical possibility to switch
Одну
off
минуту,
your
всего одну
microphone.
минуту. Всего одну минуту.
No. We had a colleague from France that complied about the fact that there is not enough time, and now you are wasting the time of the others. This is not correct, madam, please. So, thank you very much. And now we come to Madam Joldoshova from Kyrgyzstan. Please.
Спасибо. Добрый день, дорогие коллеги и приглашенные. Я хочу остановиться для меня очень тяжело говорить о прошедшем. Вернее, 2010 год для нашей страны был самый тяжелый год. Был межэтнический конфликт в городе Ваше, Джалалабаде. Вы все прекрасно знаете. Поэтому я что хочу сказать. Если мы, депутаты, сенаты, представители народа, мы сами не будем стараться, чтобы снять такие конфликты или не допустить, то кто будет с этим вопросом заниматься? Поэтому я хочу обратить ваше внимание, уважаемые дорогие коллеги, мы в первую очередь должны стараться, чтобы нигде, ни в одной стране не был межэтнический конфликт. Это во-первых. У нас не один раз, трижды был межэтнический конфликт. В нашей стране до сих пор тяжело. Но мы сейчас все, и народ, и парламент, в том числе наш президент, очень стараемся, чтобы этот межэтнический конфликт никогда не повторился. Еще я хочу сказать насчет русского языка. Русский язык не только в постсоветском пространстве нужен. Даже здесь, на площадке самого уважаемого международной организации ОБСЕ, без русского языка мы не обойдемся. Английский,
Языка студия, я в этом русский, а студия русский, германский, французский, Acho na fact que possumo campeonato interessado no suar kinesia. Da que hoje em dia é felbesara. A gente sabe no que dinheiro jo no que não se tem essas prepara. По sempre не штат titular, na штат titular, no bom papel que a gente te segurou, tipo aqui só te tirar, tenho em jun é ture, até que vet штат, tu é te boi, что mundo que te indimoi. А та, а что редучи de joy sot. kur dëgjuam nga Armenia dhe Azerbajxhani, ata folën për të kryqëzimin e zjarrit, në kuptimin figurativ, për bërë një shembull të shkëlqyer të problemeve që kemi. Ta trajtojmë të çështje pozitivisht. Njerëzit i kanë syt nga ne për ta zgjidhur këtë. Ne përfaqësojmë popullin, ne i respektojmë, duam të kujdesemi për ta, por nëse ne nuk përpiqemi të kuptojmë njëri tjetrin, atëherë çfarë shpresë kemi ne që të na kuptojë populli? Faleminderit shumë. Faleminderit shumë zonjë. Dhe tani Emin Onen nga Turqia. Faleminderit. Zoti kryetar që më dha fjalën. Sot dua që të ndaj mendimin tonë në lidhje me një çështje të rëndësishme që ka të bëjë me kufirin tonë me Serbinë, me atë që ndodhi para dy ditësh. Regjimi sirian është shkatruar dhe ato që po trajtojmë ne janë pikërisht pasojat e këtij shkatrimi. Populli sirian dhe rajoni janë të interesuar në atë që po ndodh. Ne duhet që procesin ta zgjerojmë për të mos lejuar përshkallëzimin e mëtejshëm të dhunës dhe përhapjen e tij në rajonin. Regjimi sirian po bëhet edhe më i dëshpëruar dhe nuk dihet se ç'do të bëjë tani. Para 2 ditësh u vranë 5 civil dhe 13 të tjerë u lënduan në një qytet në kufi me Serbinë. Është qyteti im i lindjes në Turqi. Pra janë ka ndodhur bombardime.
Who have lost lives to the shelling of Syrian regime, we do wish the mercy of the Almighty God for their lives and extend our sincere condolences for the families of victims and wish quick recovery for all our wounded citizens as well. Our government has initiated various diplomatic attempts under the instruction of Prime Minister Mr. Erdogan, the phone conversation with the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and the NATO Secretary General with Mr. Rasmussen, and many other distinguished international figures. In our talks, we have emphasized that all necessary actions to put an end to such acts of aggressions must be taken urgently, and Syria should respect Turkey's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and security. In an urgent session, UN Security Council strongly condemns Syria and calls its shelling along the Turkish border violation of international law. NATO Council has decided to hold a special meeting on the issue upon our request under the Article 4 and made a common declaration to show its solidarity and strong support for Turkey's security. Turkey is and shall stand firmly ready against the provocations of Syrian regime to our national security within the context of engagement rules and international law. As the atrocities of Syrian regime still continues, the number of refugees coming to Turkey is increasing day by day. The potential mass refugee movement is another grave concern which may lead to humanitarian tragedy. I'm concluding because it is a really important issue that today in this morning session Mr. Miliori has talked about this, and I'm concluding. Currently there are more than 90,000 refugees in Turkey. Now we are spending more than $200 million for this, their staying in Turkey. On behalf of my delegation, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the distinguished representative of member of countries of the OSCE for the particular attention and concern for Turkey's security and tragic loss we had a few days ago. We are thankful for international organization, UN and NATO for their wide support. Last but not least, for Mr. Miliori for his sympathy, understanding, and solidarity messages for the flagrant violations at which target has been to Turkey. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
We all follow with great concern what is happening. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Mr. Andreas Siharis from Greece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank, on behalf of my delegation, of our delegation, our host for the warm hospitality. Albania has made some important steps from the 90s. minorities now have some breathing space, and a lot has been done. Certainly, there are more steps to be taken. Greece and Albania enjoy cooperation, and projects such as STAP in the energy matters play an important role for the development of our region. Of course, our economic ties between Greece and Albania are obvious, important, and will further ensure the stability of the region and the improvement of relations and the economic ties. We encourage Albania in the path that it has taken in the European Union, and Greece will assist and support Albania in this. Again, such a path will benefit not only all the Albanians, but will also contribute to the further stability of our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, Mr. Jim Walsh from Ireland.
Can I just start by complimenting the OSCE on their selection of this topic for the fall session. Many speakers, starting with Mr. Carliga, mentioned about understanding being more important than tolerance, and I think this point was well developed by Mr. Akhmetov in his contribution to us. He talked about interculturalism as well as multiculturalism in order to promote greater tolerance, and I must say I fully subscribe to his idea of interculturalism. I think, in fact, it's more important to develop strategies and policies in that area, because I think it's a sinecure for a lot of the problems to a greater extent than multiculturalism. He also mentioned about the film, which was so offensive to the Muslim religious people across the world, and he said that it purposely set out to offend, and I think he's correct. And I think as a parliamentary assembly, we should subscribe to the sentiments that he made and join in condemning it ourselves directly as parliamentarians. I think there's a need for much more tolerance in this whole area. I also welcome his comments condemning the terrorism which ensued as a consequence, which was activated by certain areas within the Muslim world, and the killings, which I think should be totally condemned and have no place in civilized society. Can I just say as well, freedom of expression is very important. It's fundamental as a human right, but it's not an absolute right. And I think we need to see that it's nuanced. In Ireland, we have blasphemy laws, which there is now some suggestion may be repealed. But in fact, there's a very high threshold. Over the years, it's a constitutional provision. There has never been a prosecution in relation to that. But there is a need, I think, to look upon freedom of religion as a cornerstone of human rights. I must say that there has been an evolution of aggressive secularism, particularly in Western countries, which I think is leading to intolerance and, if you like, discrimination against Christians and against other religions as well. And indeed, many have had to go to the European Court of Human Rights in order to have their human rights, if you like, vindicated there. And I think that reflects badly on the manner in which some administrations are going. Can I finish by saying that in this whole area, I think there's a need for greater enlightenment. And about 2 months ago, I happened to be with a gathering of Catholic parliamentarians who were addressed by Cardinal Schönborn from Vienna. And he made a point, and I'll finish on this, that we're all created in the image of likeness of God, which is the teaching of the Catholic Church. And he actually mentioned in that if we saw ourselves in that regard, we would see everybody as our brother and sister. And I think that change of attitudinal change, which is so essential, is something that I would share with the Assembly here, and something perhaps people of all religions could in fact embrace and endorse, and hopefully that would see the necessary changes.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. And now, Mrs. Gordana Chomic from Serbia.
Thank you. Listening to all of us, I will dare to comment that it looks like that people do not share living place and space because they enjoy exchanging and sharing their diversities, but are totally different in spite of their differences and showing their differences. And more or less, after we look back in the history, we cherish what we recognize as multicultural, multi-religious, or intercultural society, but in fact, day by day, we have to deal with what I would again dare to call non-friendly human rights societies. We had once upon a time an expression of environmental friendly societies that had regulations on preserving an environment, and since we do not talk enough about human rights, I think that some of our societies starts to be non-really friendly to human rights. And we go to core of the problem is how you regulate what should be multicultural, multi-religious, intercultural society. And actually you don't regulate human rights, you try to regulate bigotry. And that's what we are talking about. And you can't regulate bigotry, you can't remove it from state of mind of different people, but you can regulate by regulations of human rights what is the behavior that is banned and based on bigotry. Until we start to talk openly about a lot of us being bigots in public, a lot of us saying one thing and doing something totally different in our society, we will repeatedly feel sorry for the times when once upon a time we used to live in harmony, and all of a sudden we show hate, we show intolerance, and we kill people who live around us. I don't believe that anything by strong regulations and going back to ideals of human rights can move us forward from where we are now. And sometimes it looks like we are playing with the fire and forgetting what bigotry can become when transferred to state power. We forget about Holocaust. We forget that Holocaust happened because by the law, by rule of law, the state decided to kill, to destroy someone because that someone was different. It was totally legal. Why do we forget that? Because we don't like maybe the idea that something like that can happen in the future, and we do not see that something like that happens. Deal with the bigotry. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordana. And now, Terence Quick from Greece.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, we are really concerned about what's going on in Syria. We have thousands and thousands of victims, Muslims and Christians. But we have to concern also, especially, for the Orthodox Church of Antiochia and for the Christian victims. Nobody's talking about that. And so far, we don't have a strong protest from the side of either the European Union or any other organization. And on the other hand, I would like to straight out that there are thousands and thousands of immigrants waiting at the borders, or let's say at the coast of Turkey, to cross to the European continent illegally. And according to the Dublin II treatment and second treatment, they have to be stationed in Greece. And we consider this matter as a very important security issue which has to be discussed and solved within the international and especially the European community. We cannot afford tens of thousands of illegal immigrants crossing the borders from Turkey to us, to Greece, and there will not be only, as you know, Syrians, either Muslims or Christians, doesn't matter, but also immigrants from Africa and other countries of Asia. So, Mr. Chairman, I believe that somehow at the next session, at the next meeting, we have to put as a subject of discussion the immigration policy in Europe and especially in Greece, because we are the borders of the European Union, and we have to ask of the help of the OSCE, of OSCE, urgently. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I can assure you that we shall deal again also with problems of immigration or illegal immigration. And now I give the floor to Mrs. Diana Vukomanovic from Serbia.
Thank you. Dear colleagues parliamentarians, I'm quite sure that all 56 delegations have quite similar experiences in dealing with multi-ethnic problems or dealing with multi-ethnic conflict management. As far as Serbia is concerned, we are dealing with these questions more than 30 years. For what I could see from your discussions, we are dealing also with a high level of frustration because on the eve of the 21st century, we are still faced with the breaching of basic human rights throughout the world. So it is not good, we are not satisfied, but since we are policymakers here, there is always a good chance for all of us to change our policy towards the ethnic minorities, at least every 5 or 4 years. It depends on our electoral schedule. So what we can do as very important and very powerful worldwide organization is to insist on the international standards. In that way, as Ambassador Barton already stated in his keynote speech, that we should be involved in vigorous promotion of human rights. The good point is also that we cannot stop the development of human rights. In as much as we are used to speak about ethnic minorities, there are new minorities in our societies. The people are more sensitive not only to breaching of human rights, but also, as Rabbi Baker pointed out, to the breaching of rights of animals, to the breaching of rights of disabled people, of internally displaced people. So the policy towards the protection of ethnic minority is not the question of identity. That is also the question, as Ambassador Barton put it, of the decision how to build up your state. That is the question of the architecture of our states. So these policies can be changed, and that is the good fact. And what I wanted to point out, it is upon the OSCE to insist that every state that will breach basic human rights, meaning in liberal way, a right to the freedom, right to life, and right to private property should be marked as illiberal, as fragile, or a failed state. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Rifat Rastoder from Montenegro.
Hvala vam na prilici da vam se obratim
Thank
I da
you.
vas pozdravim u ime delegacije Skupštine Crne Gore.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you here today and to greet you all on behalf of the Parliament of Montenegro and on my behalf.
Mi smo u velikom, rekao, završnoj izbornoj kampanji, novoj izbornoj kampanji, ali upravo iz uvažavanja ove asambleje I organizacije OEBS-a došli smo da prisustvujemo makar prva 2 dana sjednici Skupštine.
Now we are entering the final stage of our new election campaign, but by honoring the organization of the OSCE and the Parliament Assembly of the OSCE, we have accepted the invitation to participate and to be here with you for these 2 days.
Ono zbog čega sam se međutim javio za riječ jeste osjećaj potrebe da se zahvalim što ste upravo ovu temu uvrstili u dnevni red.
The reason that I wanted to take the floor and to speak with you is the feeling that I have and the feeling for the need to congratulate you for putting this item on the agenda.
Jer ako nam je išto zajedničko i na ovom skupu i u državama koje predstavljamo, onda je to multikulturalnost.
And if anything we do have in common, that is the fact that we have and we do have the multicultural and multi-ethnicity in our countries. That is what we have in common.
Radujem se što takva poruka može biti upućena sa ovog skupa.
I am very glad that this type of message could be sent from this type of the meeting.
Inače, kao što vjerujem mnogi znaju, Crna Gora je upravo tipičan primjer održivosti koncepta multikulturalnosti.
And as you know, and as I believe you know, that Montenegro is a typical example of the sustainability of the concept of multi-ethnicity and multicultural society.
Žao mi je što nemam vremena detaljnije obrazložiti taj koncept, ali ću samo napomenuti da je jedina od država na Balkanu ili čak u čitavom regionu jugoistočne Evrope, a posebno od bivših jugoslovenskih republika, koja je obnovljena upravo zahvaljujući multikulturalnosti i koja je utemeljena na multikulturalnosti kao država svih građana i svih naroda koje čine njeno društveno biće.
I am very sorry that I do not have much time to express in detail the reasons that I want to say that Montenegro is one of the countries in the region that has constitutionally founded and has grounds in the constitution that mention the multiculturality and multi-ethnicity.
Ostaje nam samo da pozovemo da dođete da se sami u to uvjerite, a gospodinu Bateliju dobrodošlica na predstojeće izbore.
And we do invite you to come to Montenegro to see for yourself, and a great invitation to Mr. Batelli, who will come to be the head of the OSCE election observation mission to Montenegro in the week to come.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now,
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Aslanova from Azerbaijan. Please, Madam, to start again.
Уважаемые коллеги, сегодня нас собрало сюда желание, главное желание. Желание создать новое пространство, пространство терпимости, пространство мира и стабильности. Мы уверены, что мы добьемся этого. Мы из 56 стран, страны, которые когда-то воевали между собой, страны, которые между ними были конфликты, но сегодня нет этих конфликтов, а если есть, мы уверены, что скоро эти конфликты тоже будут разрешены. Я из Азербайджана. Азербайджан многонациональная, многоэтническая страна. В 2014 году вы приедете в Баку и сами увидите эту страну, где существует терпимость, где существует прекрасный мультикультурализм. И я хочу сказать, я могу многое рассказать, но вам самим придется увидеть. А я хотела бы сказать об одном. В центре в Баку, в самом прекрасном месте, стоит армянская церковь, отреставрированная. И даже глава армянской церкви, будучи в Азербайджане, увидел эту церковь и те книги, первоисточники, которые хранятся там, и был удивлен. О чем это говорит? Это говорит о том, что Азербайджан ценит те исторические традиции и очень бережно относится к этому. Это та страна, на территории, которая оккупирована. И на этой территории огромное количество мечетей были разрушены армянскими террористами, армянскими оккупантами. Но я не хочу говорить о прошлом. Я уверена, что мирные переговоры, которые ведутся между Азербайджаном и Арменией, они достигнут своей цели. И то пространство, о котором мы говорим, о котором мы желаем, оно, естественно, сформируется. И несколько слов о том, что сегодня Европа на самом деле переживает очень интересный момент мультикультурализма. Вы знаете, уважаемые коллеги, по-моему, уже время на размышление ушло. Мы должны решить, что мы должны делать для того, чтобы на этом пространстве, на пространстве ОБСЕ царил мир, терпимость и так далее. Я благодарю уважаемого Ахметова, который говорил о том, что женщина с покрывалом. И в конце хочу напомнить вам такой момент. Будучи в Европе, мы часто встречаемся с моментом, когда женщина в покрывале рассматривается как символ невежества, символ терроризма и так далее. А на Ватикане, в музее Ватикана я увидела прекрасное изваяние Девы Марии, которая в покрывале. И почему же мы, смотря на Деву Марию с покрывалом, относимся к ней большим уважением и так далее, а женщина-мусульманка, которая носит покрывало, в взглядах европейца совсем другое. И я хочу, чтобы те общечеловеческие нравственные ценности восторжествовали, и мы с большим уважением отнеслись к нашей истории. Спасибо.
La ringrazio sentitamente. E adesso Claudio D'Amico. Prego.
Grazie, saluto gli ospiti albanesi che ringrazio per averci accolto in modo così positivo e volevo iniziare il mio intervento trattando il discorso che il tema di questa prima sessione, che è promuovere e proteggere le società multietniche e multiculturali nella regione OSCE. Ecco, è stato dato questo titolo, che è un titolo solo positivo, ma noi dobbiamo sapere, dobbiamo ricordare che le società multiculturali, multietniche possono avere in certe situazioni dei grossi vantaggi, in altre anche degli aspetti negativi. Quindi non possiamo sempre dare la visione unilaterale delle cose. Le cose vanno dette come stanno. Ci sono situazioni nel mondo e nei paesi OSCE dove una cosa può essere positiva, altre situazioni dove una cosa può essere negativa. E lo ricordo, andiamo a spiegare ai nativi americani i vantaggi della società multiculturale, quando loro adesso vivono nelle riserve e prima erano invece i proprietari, diciamo, legittimi di quel territorio. Quindi ci sono aspetti negativi e positivi che dobbiamo sottolineare ed è giusto ricordarlo. Inoltre dobbiamo dividere anche tra le popolazioni e quindi le situazioni dove c'è una popolazione endemica e quindi stati che sono costituiti da diversi popoli, popolazioni diverse, endemiche, che sono nate in quel territorio, ma che hanno radici culturali diverse. Vi faccio l'esempio, l'Italia, i confini che ha adesso l'Italia, racchiudono sia italiani, sia persone, ad esempio in Sud Tirol, che sono di cultura tedesca, parlano tedesco. Ecco, noi siamo riusciti in questo Stato italiano, e l'avete visto in quella riunione che è stata fatta a Bolzano, a dare una grande autonomia a questa zona col bilinguismo, in modo che la popolazione endemica tedesca possa convivere con gli altri. Un altro discorso invece sono le popolazioni che arrivano e si spostano. E qui abbiamo un grosso problema in Europa, perché l'Europa, a parte i suoi popoli stanziali, ha subito negli ultimi 20 anni un grande ingresso di immigrati, di culture diverse. E allora noi dobbiamo ribadire che le culture dei popoli europei devono essere salvaguardate. E quindi noi chiediamo l'integrazione, ma integrazione vuol dire che chi arriva da fuori in un territorio con una cultura diversa debba integrarsi e accettare quella cultura, non volerla sovvertire. Ecco, perché la tutela delle culture dei popoli, di tutti i popoli, è fondamentale, non possiamo perderle. E quindi, lo dico per tutti i paesi che subiscono una forte immigrazione, bisogna cercare di far sì che i nuovi immigrati si integrino nella cultura e non la vogliano sovvertire, perché uno dei problemi che noi abbiamo in Europa è proprio questo. Grazie.
Thank you. And now, Henri Lagnol, France.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Mes chers collègues, au risque de heurter certains d'entre vous, je voudrais exprimer ma vive désapprobation sur la façon dont a été conçue cette table ronde. J'ai trouvé que dans les exposés qui nous étaient présentés, on assistait à l'inverse de ce que doivent être les valeurs de l'OSCE, c'est-à-dire les valeurs d'universalité et de liberté. Nous avons en effet entendu une litanie sur les atteintes aux droits des musulmans, puis une deuxième sur les faits d'antisémitisme, un exposé idéaliste, tronqué et mensonger sur l'histoire de l'Empire ottoman. Et tout cela pourquoi? Parce qu'évidemment, nous sommes tous contre l'islamophobie et révoltés par ces vidéos stupides. Nous sommes tous contre l'antisémitisme et révolté par ces démons qui renaissent. Mais le SCE a pour mission de rappeler une vision beaucoup plus forte, une vision héritée de la Déclaration des droits de l'homme, une vision laïque, c'est-à-dire une vision dans laquelle il y a séparation de l'Église et de l'État, et dans laquelle toutes les religions, sans exception, ont le droit d'être pratiquées librement. C'est cela que nous attendons, et pas un discours qui finit par ratifier la coexistence de communautés. C'est l'inverse que nous devons incarner. Et j'avoue avoir été consterné par l'organisation de cette table ronde qui n'est pas fidèle, à mon sens, aux valeurs universelles que nous devons porter. D'ailleurs, la meilleure preuve en est qu'ensuite nous avons entendu certains insurgents, parce qu'on n'avait pas parlé des discriminations nationales, des discriminations linguistiques, des discriminations contre les chrétiens, etc., etc. Nous devons repenser, chers collègues, profondément l'organisation de nos débats sur ces sujets. Nous ne devons pas céder sur la vision européenne qui doit être laïque et universaliste.
I share your opinion, but I don't see this part of the conference as something that goes far away from what you have expressed as your wish and ambition. Okay, then we come to finally. No, we have now Mr. Sultanov, yes, from Kazakhstan.
Благодарю вас, господин председатель. Уважаемые коллеги, прежде всего позвольте поблагодарить руководство и секретариат парламентской ассамблеи за организацию данной специальной сессии по соответствующей тематике. Эта тематика, она очень актуальна и своевременна, и как раз это наша работа. Поэтому я предлагаю продолжить на следующей сессии, расширив и представить широкую возможность для выступления других коллег, продолжить эту тематику. Она исключительно актуальна. Я думаю, что она не завершится сегодня. Это первое. Второе. Хочу я поздравить всех 5 докладчиков за очень исключительно содержательные и очень серьезные, глубокие выступления. Все конфликты между религиями, также и порой между людьми происходят из-за непонимания, из-за нежелания слушать друг друга. Когда 20 лет тому назад политолог Америки Самуил Хантингтон говорил о сближении столкновений между цивилизациями, мы категорически отвергали. А теперь мы порой убеждаемся в приближении именно такого сомнения, такого предсказания. Нам надо предпринять меры для того, чтобы не допустить столкновения цивилизаций. Историю нам надо помнить и знать нашу историю не для возобновления наших обид, не для возобновления мести, а для выводов и для нашего человеческого урока. Поэтому и мы не должны допускать вот такого рода, как свобода слова. Нельзя свободой слова прикрываться, делая такие фильмы, извращающие вообще религию, не только мусульманскую религию, как Мухаммед пророке. Поэтому мы должны переходить на другой уровень цивилизации. В этом смысле я хочу сказать, в Казахстане достаточно примеров и для обиды, если мы начнем углубляться в нашу историю. Но сейчас мы строим новый мир, совершенно новое мышление, новое стремление, новое качество вообще в мировоззренческом аспекте в нашем будущем. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, thank you. And now the last intervention is from Isabel Pozuelo, Spain.
Gracias, señor Batelli. Felicito a los ponentes por su presentación, que ha sido de mucho interés, y varios de ellos se han referido a España, al papel histórico que ha vivido España, que ha tenido España, como ejemplo de convivencia entre culturas, etnias y religiones diferentes, la judía, la árabe y la cristiana. La historia nos acompaña siempre, acompaña a los estados y acompaña a los pueblos. Hoy hemos visto clarísimos ejemplos de ello, pero yo creo que estamos en una organización, en la OSCE, en la que debemos de hacer los esfuerzos suficientes y necesarios por trabajar en positivo. Y el acompañamiento de la historia debe servirnos siempre, como en el caso de España ha servido, para conocer mejor al otro, para acercar puentes, no para buscar los enfrentamientos y avanzar en la intolerancia. Debemos luchar precisamente contra esa intolerancia y esas actitudes negativas, porque si no, no daremos nunca paso hacia el futuro, hacia un futuro positivo. El proyecto de la Alianza de Civilizaciones al que el ponente de Turquía se ha referido, en el que España, junto con su país, propuso en Naciones Unidas y Naciones Unidas ha aceptado, es un instrumento muy importante en este sentido, en el sentido de avanzar en esa construcción de la arquitectura cívica que hacía mención el jefe de la misión en Bosnia, para que esa memoria histórica, cultural, que cada uno de nuestros países tiene y ha recibido, y para España ha sido muy importante, sirva precisamente para construir entre los pueblos y entre las distintas etnias un sitio, un lugar de acercamiento y de entendimiento mutuo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. We have concluded. There's no more time, unfortunately. And if anybody wants to have a talk with our panelists, maybe they can approach them at lunch or whatever. So I thank the keynote speakers very, very much. Their contribution was very useful and important. And I declare now the session closed. Thank you.
Monsieur le Président, Monsieur, je vais parler 2 minutes, s'il vous plaît. Monsieur le Président, l'interprétant de l'Arménie, il parle très fâcheux et très provocatif. Je ne répondrai pas, lui, parce que je crois que cette forme n'est pas une forme de conflit, de confrontation, de condamnation. Je vous écoute, je vous écoute. Ah oui, merci. La dernière jour de l'Empire ottoman, le temps plus tragique du point de vue des Turcs, des Arméniens et même des peuples balkans. Et on a vécu beaucoup de mal. Nous ne voulons pas ce sujet devait être une proclamation à Istanbul dans le patriarcat de Byzance. C'est un empire ottoman et le patriarche Istanbul. Et si vous êtes visité le Cappadoce, vous voyez là-bas plusieurs exemples de ça. Un roi turc et un roi d'Arménie, ils ont vécu d'une position comme les Turcs, ils ont vécu ensemble là-bas. C'est pour cela que nous devons être attentifs sur les sujets.
There's no interpretation anymore.
Merci.
Thank you very much.